Author's House.
Hi everyone, my name is Nicole Richardson and I'm from Authors Press. I'm gathered here today with Calvin Cassady, the author of Bridging the Gap. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, Calvin?
Thank you, Nicole. I am a retired school teacher. That's probably the most profession that, aside from being an author. I taught school for almost 40 years and all age groups. I even had a kindergarten class when I was substituting, and my last teaching assignment was at a university. So I have a background in teaching. I also have a background in church work. I was a youth minister for 11 years. Since I retired from teaching, I've done some work for one of the Indian tribes in the area and served on their tribal council. And now I'm just retired and enjoying visiting with people and kind of promoting the words in the book and enjoying my wife and my children and doing some traveling. Can't wait to get out to Tucson.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about your book as well?
Okay, the book is called Bridging the Gap. It's a book. The title came before the book. And sometimes, people have to write before and then when they get finished, they decide what they're going to write. But I started off with the title because the main beginnings of the book is with a car accident when I was 19 years old, and which led to a meeting with God and in heaven, and then I was returned to Earth with a mission to spread the message. So the message I brought was from God, and the message that I was to share was from God. But the reasoning for bridging the gap was I felt like He had bridged the gap with me in a way that would make me excited about bridging the gap with readers and with my students and with my neighbors and with the people at church. So that's where the title came from, and that's what the basic premise of the book is. It's sharing God's message, and it's kind of a collection of some soft kind of stuff. When I was thinking last night about this interview, I was thinking, it's kind of like comfort food. It's kind of laid back and this time of, with everything that's going on in the world today, we don't need somebody that's preaching at us, but I want to share, some warm stories about some of the things that happened to me while I was teaching, and that's kind of where it's at.
So that actually kind of leads me to my first question, which would be, what is the main message you want to get across to your readers?
Okay, the main message that I want to get across to the readers is that we can all be we can all be these messengers. At the end of every little short story in the book, I would always use the phrase, God gets all the glory. I'm just a messenger, and so it's a collection of little short snippets, and then it talks about how God worked through my neighbors and through my friends and family after some tragedies hit the family, and but the message is all in the title. God bridged that gap with me. My job was to bridge that gap with my readers, and hopefully I'll do a good enough job that they'll want to bridge that gap with their friends and family, because one end of that bridge is when we begin our life, and at the other end, we hope everybody can all get together on the other side in God's kingdom.
So, what would you say literary success is to you?
Okay, I thought about that recently too. I've been doing a lot of thinking lately since, when you're retired, you don't have a lot to do. So then you start thinking about what you really have. Um, you know, what you read about when you look at authors, and I've got to admit, you always think, well, I want to write a bestseller. I want to sell 1 million copies. I want to be on the New York Times list. Well, all that stuff is really, really wonderful. But when you write a Christian book, you want to make sure that you have a lot of readers, but the dollar numbers and the millions numbers aren't are not. I mean, yes, you want to be if you're going to be a successful author, you've got to sell books. But the way I look at success in this case is how many people that I can reach, and how many people can I make a difference for. And there's a little bit of difference there. Again, we're in a very difficult time now, and how you approach people is I mean, people they want to be a part of something that's kind of laid back and kind of that's why I've got this comfort metaphor. They don't want to be preached at. They are thinking, how can things get worse? I mean, so this book shows the comfort that can come from working with the people around you. In my case, it was children and parents and grandparents in a lot of cases. But then towards the end of the book, it shows more about the opportunities of being a Christian, because we lost our house in a tornado, and a tremendous amount of service came from the church, from our neighbors, from our family. And that's tough for people that are real independent like I am, because, we want to think that we're in charge of everything. And it's really, really hard to say, no, I can't do this. I've got to have help. And to be able to appreciate that help. And then I'd never really felt prayer from the church until that particular incident. We pray for people all the time, but I'd never had them pray for me, and I really did feel it. And that's just one more reason why I want to tell my story.
So, how old were you when you wrote your first story?
Oh, when I wrote my first story, I don't know, probably in kindergarten or first grade. But
You were real young then.
Real young then. But throughout my school career, I always wanted to write. I was more in my younger days wanting to, write like the news, like stuff that was going around me, not necessarily stories or features. But once I got in high school, I had a very good English teacher. In fact, I had several good English teachers that tried to bring out the creativity. And even though I didn't have any journalism classes in college, I did do some writing, and I've written newspaper articles and things ever since. But this book happened, like I said, after the accident when I was 19 years old. But I've always wanted to write, and it's kind of a funny story. I wanted to work this in somewhere. My first real, push to be a writer came from my first college class, which I took at the University of Arizona in Tucson when I was 18 years old. And I feel like it's kind of coming full circle. That teacher was a young lady, and she believed in me, and she said, you can do it. The funny story is, she says, you got to learn how to spell Arizona first, because I wanted to put an I in there somewhere.
Would you say that your book, Bridging the Gap, would you say it's a standalone, or is it a part of a series?
Well, it was written as a standalone. I've had a lot of people encouraging me to write a sequel or two, and there's plenty of stories out there. And since I've retired, since I've grown older, I look at how we message people and how we reach people, and so it's a possibility that there could be more. I look at my age and I'm thinking, if there is going to be, I'm going to have to get with it. But no, it was written as a standalone.
What would you say is your biggest source of inspiration? I feel like we've already touched on this, but I feel like there also could be more.
Well, of course, God is my biggest source of information, but seeing Him work through me, and seeing Him work through students, and through the church, and through this pandemic, and through everything else that's going on in the world, my inspiration comes from God, but the inspiration of seeing His actions and working through me, how I can help other people. And I guess right now, that's my biggest challenge. How can I best use this to reach people that are hurting, and that are and that could be just about anybody right now. We've all been touched by this pandemic, and the book is kind of a soft version of Christianity, a soft version of the message, the word, but that's what people today need to hear. They don't need to hear, like I said, they don't need to be preached at, because most of them are, that's just not what, that's just not
right. I kind of understand what you're trying to convey, because I agree. I noticed that specifically people closer to my age, I'm 19 years old, people closer to my age don't want to sit and be preached at, if that makes sense.
I understand.
We either want to be a part of it, or we want to take it home with us and be able to read it on our own. Mm-hmm. It all depends on the person, but I noticed that there is a big difference in my generation compared to older generations and even younger generations.
It's like I said, there's all kinds of people, but I'm beginning to believe that this pandemic has brought us closer together, because we all feel the same way. We all feel, in a sense, hurt. We all feel a sense of loss. I don't know anybody around my part of the country that hasn't been affected, hasn't lost loved ones, haven't lost loved ones that hadn't had a chance to say goodbye. And I've been really working hard to find out how I can talk to those people. And this idea that the stories are interesting. I talked to a lady the other day that just read it. She goes, I was going to read it all at one time, and then I just thought, no, I'm going to read each section and then savor it for the moment. And because, it just makes me feel good in a time when I'm not feeling good. So I feel like I'm making progress, and I want to work towards that from, going forward.
I totally understand that person, because I love to read. Reading is my favorite hobby. I love to read books, cover to cover, but then I can only read it once before I've already read it. So I gotta savor it and read it slow. But I don't want to read it slow, but I don't want to read it all. See the dilemma here? Yeah, I understand the dilemma. I want to read it all cover to cover because it's so good, but I don't, because it's so good, I want it to last.
Right. And on the other hand, my biggest fan, and I've got to tell you, it's my biggest fan, is my stepmother. She's 94 years old, and she's read it, I don't know how many times. Every time I see her, she says, I read your book the other day, read it again, and I found something else that I really, really liked about it. And she says, oh, by the way, do you have another copy? I've given this one away, and somebody else I know needs to read it. And so can you get me another copy? Absolutely.
That's very sweet. I'm glad you have a fan that is that diehard?
Well, I have several, but the sad thing again is another one of my biggest fans just lost her husband to COVID, just slam bang, one day they were fighting to, exist in this crazy world we're in, and the next day he's gone. And I've got to get over. I mean, we my wife and I were very close to these people, and we've been and remain very close to them. But there's a challenge right there, just waiting. And I read on Facebook, former students, former people I had in church are hurting. So there's work to be done, and maybe that's why I'm retired, because now I can do the work that I want to do and not be faced with all the things like jobs and earning a living. So I'm looking forward to the next years.
I'm not a religious person. I would say I don't specifically follow any religion, but I consider myself agnostic because I believe there is something. Not,
yes.
There can't be nothing. I just don't know exactly what is for me yet. But I believe that everything happens for a reason. It's all part of the plan,
Yes.
Whether it makes sense or not is a different story. But who knows? Maybe your book will help them in their story.
That's right. That's the point. The bridge is a metaphor for life, and we want to get people from one end to the other end. And in my case, that bridge represents the path from here.
So, what would you say was the hardest part of writing this book?
Say that again.
What would you say was the hardest part of writing this book?
Writing the beginning and writing the end was the hardest part. The part in the middle just came easy. Like I said, there was story after story after story. It was picking out which ones you want to put here, and you want to use this, or are you going to use this somewhere else? And then kind of life kind of unfolded. Some of the things at the end of the book happened at the pretty much in the same time frame. Most of the book was written from the past, but then when I was telling about the tornado, about dealing with people with illness, fighting cancer, things like that. But then when you got it all together and you think, man, I got to stop. This is piling up here. I've got to go back. I've got to read it, and I got to figure out how to put it together. That was the hardest part. The hardest part was the beginning and the end, just like on the bridge, the beginning and the end. And I was satisfied with how it turned out, but with a little extra time, there might be more. You never know. We'll have to wait and see.
So on the other hand, what would you say was the highlight or your favorite part of writing this book?
Favorite part was, this sounds a little selfish, but it's true. The favorite part of the book was getting it finished and having, the book signing the first time, and celebrating with my folks, with my church people and my family people, and have them sincerely critique the book and say, it's good. We love it. We're going to read it more than then. We're going to send it to our neighbors. That was the best part. Best part is knowing the difference.
I don't think that's selfish at all. I mean, I have written before. I've never looked into publishing, but if I were to publish my own story in my own book, that would be my favorite part too. Seeing somebody else hold the book and seeing how it can help them, that would be my favorite part.
And I've gone one step further. I also have an audio book. It's also available on Kindle, but the audio book was kind of an adventure too. I mean, that's just one step below, filming the book.
Right.
And I was a little, I didn't know if I wanted to do it or not, but now that it's done, there's another, and it, they can get it on I'm drawing a blank here, but where you get your podcasts, it's on there, Spotify and Audible. If you belong to that, you can.
I think it's called. I'm not sure.
I think it's Audible and Spotify.
Yes. Having an audiobook be made of your book really, really opens how much audience you can have, because it opens, some people can't read, some people don't know how, or some people don't have the ability to because they can't see. So it really opens up your audience and who you can reach to have an audiobook.
Absolutely. And some people, especially if they're hurting like people are today, they don't feel like reading.
Right.
They feel like reading.
Yeah, exactly. Some people just don't have the motivation for it. And it is proven that audiobooks highlight the same part of your brain as reading. So it's the same thing. But it's more accessible. And I think that's really cool. I love audiobooks. So
well, I'm pretty proud of the way this one turned out.
Right, buy it then.
It's been a journey, and it seemed like once it was published, it's not a million bookseller. It has been in the New York Times, but only the description of it. But now that I have time to work with it, people don't always want to hear about it. They don't want to hear about it from somebody else. They want to hear about it from the author. And that's
exactly. That's why virtual interviews are the best.
That's the way I feel too.
So who would you say is your target audience, if you even have one?
Well, it's just hard to say, because I had one lady that said that they were going through family troubles, foster kids and things like that. And she said, I would read those chapters to my children before they went to bed at night because it made them feel better. So I would have never guessed that the target audience for this book would have been children, grade school age children. I would have guessed there would be older people, closer to wondering what heaven might be like. But then I've also got a group of teachers that are very loyal. And in that case, especially today, and again, with the situation, but just with education in general, they feel like their hands are tied when it comes to things like love and God and spiritual beliefs and things like that. So I've got a following of educators, and some are bold enough to say that took real courage to do the things you did because of the way things are. But I believe that if God tells you to do it, you do it, because he's going to take care of you and he's got your back. And that's the way I roll.
Right. And, that kind of adds on to what I said earlier. Having an audiobook seriously opens your audience and who can access your book, because not all children are good at reading, and having an audiobook, it's like they can have it read to them anytime they want.
That's right.
So it really, really opens up your audience, and it's so cool. I don't know who invented audiobooks, but it's the coolest thing ever.
Well, I wasn't sure at first, but then when I heard the finished product, I'm just so proud of it. It's actually it's becoming part of this promotion as of late. So again, that's something new, a new path.
I've just got a couple more questions for you before we wrap this up. What does your family think about your writing?
I got to tell you this. And this is another funny story, because my wife and I are we're big fans of the Hallmark Network. And there was a Hallmark Christmas movie, I think, and it's been 10, 15 years ago. But I know that the guy gave his girlfriend or his wife the manuscript tied up with the ribbons and put a bow on it for Christmas. Well, I did the same thing with my book for my wife on Mother's Day. And she stayed up all night reading it. She said, I said, well, how'd you like what you read of it? She goes, I read it all. So yes, they're very supportive. Again, some of my best fans are relatives and they don't even live here. And
right. You mentioned your stepmother, yeah.
Yeah, they say the same thing. We really loved it, but we gave it to somebody else, or we wanted each of our kids to have a copy of it. We ordered it for Christmas. Well, when you become a Christmas present, how much more of an honor can you get? I mean, that's support.
Me personally, when it comes to gift giving, I am very much a gift things that can be gifted, passed along. So I like gifting books, and I like gifting recipes, and I like giving sourdough starter as gifts, things like that. So yeah. Gifting a book is like real heart touching, it's intimate is what it is.
Yes, I think
very
you're right.
Intimate.
And when you write about what I wrote about, that's intimate too. I had
exactly. It's
one of my nephews said,
full of love.
Yeah, love. And I think that's one thing that is also very much prevalent in the book, and something that needs to be prevalent today, because people are, we're losing people every day. And my comfort words for those is love. Love transcends the grave. If your loved ones loved you here, you can still love them, and they're going to know, and you're not going to know that they're going to love you. So love is another part of it.
So where can readers find out more about you and your book?
Okay, the best way to find out the whole package is to go to my website. It's Calvin, Calvin, Cassady, Cassady, all one word, all lowercase, .net. And that's got lots of interviews, lots of stories, and pictures and things like that will tell you what's going on. And it's just been redone. The new website, I just sent the last picture last night, so that's how new it is. But that's how to find out the best. You can get the book from Amazon, you can get it from Books A Million, online. I noticed one of my latest distributors is Target, online, because a lot of people get their books at Target. So I'm happy for that. I'm happy, like I said, I'm happy to get to come to the Southwest, and I just feel like that's a sign.
Right.
It's kind of come full circle, and it's almost like a relaunch, because there's just so much that needs to be done today, and another target audience is people in retirement homes. They've been really injured by this pandemic.
Very much so.
They need something warm to do, and something. So I've been making some trips, and I'm going to make some more trips in that direction. Hospitals, lots of people need something uplifting, and but again, they don't want to be preached at. I mean, especially now. It's kind of like I feel bad enough now. Please, just leave me alone.
Right. So this is the last question I have before we can wrap this up. How do you feel about working with Authors Press?
Oh, it's been great. I mean, this has been a great interview, and the stuff that your team has put together for this festival of books is outstanding. I haven't seen it in person, but I've seen lots of pictures of what's going to happen. And like I said, I'm really, really excited. My wife's excited. She's going with us, and we're going to spend some time in Arizona when we come out. And but like I said, it's a new market, and just getting ready for this has kind of rattled my brain a little bit and put some new ideas in there, and it's kind of given me a chance to kind of polish up the book and what it has done and what kind of possibilities it has.
That's all the questions I have for you today. Thank you so much for meeting with me today, Calvin. It's been a real honor to discuss you and your book and a little bit about your life as well.
Well, it's been a pleasure. I mean, I'm excited to see the finished product, and I guess I'll see that when I arrive.
Yeah, definitely. When this meeting is completed and put together properly, it'll be available on YouTube as well. So if you have any questions or concerns, feel free to reach out to Authors Press. But other than that, that's all I have for you today.
All right. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. I hope I can see you again and do another interview.
Well, maybe so.
I hope so. You have a wonderful day and stay safe.
Thank you. Goodbye.